This is more about living in the time of the coronavirus epidemic. The trumpet's younger brother died over the weekend. I was certain that the dummy craps, aka the thundering herd, would blame him for that, would say he killed him, but I didn't see that. But they're busy with their convention. All the local politicians are climbing over the shootings we had the other night. Their plan, what they intend to do, yada, yada, yada. They won't do anything except draw attention to themselves and seek election. Democracy, our greatest hope, is also nauseating when you see it in action. There were 3 more shootings on the night following the 18. I've said that I don't believe systemic racism exists in this country. Now, not now. I think about it and make my own observations, and I continue to believe that. But the problems behind this violence are systemic. So those lovers of systemic woes can dive into this. Although they won't. They are attracted to situations loaded with potential, but shy on actuality, like systemic racism. They have a field day with that, and the people they accuse of this look guilty, mean, and foolish as they try to clear themselves of the charge. But this other systemic ill really does exist. As the word systemic implies, it is very deeply rooted. It depends on a lack of family, no support other than gangs, no education, lots of breeding, a complex drug network, and a deep-seated bitterness and hatred, perfectly raised antisocial beings. It's not a perfect world they live in, not by a long shot. When things go sour, the easiest and most effective response is to start shooting. Shooting first is the way to go. Shooting makes sense. It takes care of things. When the day comes that you get shot, that's the way it is. Until then, you live high and you breed. That ensures that this will go on generation after generation. Your lifespan is not going to be a long one, but in a life like this, who wants to live long? You compress things. Live as well as you can for as long as you can. Life is a living hell, and it is systemic. It passes among these people like a contagion. They are infected with this life. The dummy craps, busy with their convention in a virtual way, have a new crusade. I don't think it has anything to do with Russian intervention, but it might. They are out to save the U.S. postal system. It's really perfect for them because it is one of the biggest all-time losers in history, and it's nearly an anachronism now. It handles junk mail and little else. But the dummy craps, in their crusade, are tying it in to mail-in voting, and that's crucial to them. They say that if we lose the postal system or curtail mail-in voting in any way, that would spell the end of democracy. And if that happened, it would be the fault of the trumpet. He is no fan of mail-in voting. He says it leads to fraud and rigged elections, and this is probably where the Russians might sneak in. Anyway, the dummy craps are going to try to paste together some legislation that will provide enough emergency money to keep the postal system running. So we have a bankrupt government supporting a bankrupt post office and a very bankrupt democracy. Studying a plan like this, it is easy to see the giant flaw and ultimate undoing of the democratic model. Pandering to the people creates an unreal and unsustainable economy, and that will result in collapse and chaos. That said, I still think the most disgraceful thing about this coming election, the biggest insult to voters, is that both candidates are 78-year-old white males. Some choice. Locally, they've collected signatures for a ballot issue which intends to defund the police. I can see this splitting up the city. They are calling this initiative Public Safety Reimagined. It reminds me of the John Lennon song, Imagine, a pretentious concoction where he imagined a perfect world that simply does not exist, has never existed, will never exist, and is contrary to human nature, full of foibles and fallibilities and desires, far from perfect. Kind of like public safety. The field mouse is going to allow all high school sports, including contact sports. Schools and parents will decide if their children play. But he said if the wheels come off, we will not hesitate to step in. The city's baseball team will play again tonight, maybe a doubleheader tomorrow. In the state, the number of cases was down by several hundred, but the deaths were up by a factor of 4. What does that mean? No one could tell you. But I'm sure that someone is blaming it on the trumpet.